Okay. So the whole Yanny Laurel debate has been raging on all week, and this morning we've decided that it's time to put it to bed once and for all. Thank you very much, Team Yanny. Now, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, or you've just tuned in, there was this clip that went viral during the week where a computerized voice says either Yanny or Laurel, depending on who is listening to it. Now, some people hear Yanny, while some people hear Laurel. Have a listen for yourself and decide.
Laurel. Laurel. Laurel.
That's all I hear.
Laurel.
It's all Yanny.
Laurel.
It's all Yanny.
Laurel. Laurel.
Yanny, right?
Yeah.
Laurel.
No, bro.
Laurel.
No, I'm still hearing Yanny. Okay, so that it's still happening right now. Graham just changed his mind for some reason, so we need to understand what's going on. That's why we've called in the expertise of audiologist Natalie Buttress. Thank you for joining us, Natalie. I need to understand, are we all going mad, or is there a logical explanation to all of this?
Well, there's definitely a logical explanation, but I can't tell you that logic is always definitive in a case like this, so opinion will still rage, but you know, there are four components to how we interpret sound.
Okay.
The first one is the original signal. So how was it recorded? What are the components? And in this, there are actually two components. Laurel and Yanny are both there. Laurel has got a little bit more of a bass or low pitch emphasis, and Yanny has got a little bit more of the treble frequencies in that signal. And it's up to our brains to interpret it. But on the path to that interpretation comes the second component, which is how is it transmitted? Was there a filter that pushes you a little bit more towards the treble or the bass, such as, for example, your speakers?
Yes.
Did you listen to it in your car? Did you listen to it on your phone? And that might have more of a treble or a bass emphasis, so it will change your interpretation. And then, of course, your hearing, because obviously you pick up the sound with your ear. So your hearing, if you have completely normal hearing, you may hear either one. But if you have a little bit of treble hearing loss, you're more likely to hear Laurel. If you have a little bit of bass hearing loss, you might hear Yanny. And then the last component is actually what we interpret sound with, and that's our brain. So your ear is just the conduit to bring that information to the brain. And when it actually gets to the brain, your brain interprets, first of all, by categorizing sound. And for example, Y and L both belong to the same group of sounds that our brains interpret, along with W and R. And the L and the N both being sounds behind the front of the teeth. Both of those are in a similar category, so you can hear an N or an R or an L, and that's why your brain has just a tiny bit of confusion, especially if the filter moves. And then the last thing is your language. So you refer to your, Laurel is a real word, Yanny isn't. So your brain refers to its lexicon, its kind of memory of vocabulary for your language or whatever, and it actually draws on that in order to interpret what you're hearing. So it's a complex process, and that's why people are coming up with so many different opinions.
So this says to me that then those that utilize audio media as a means of communication could then manipulate that audio to allow people to hear or perceive what they want them to hear.
Absolutely. Your reality is only what you're filtered to see or hear. That's your reality.
That is super fascinating and scary all at the same time. Thank you very, very much for being here and lending us your expertise.
It's a pleasure. I'd like to just also add from the South African Association of Audiologists that, you know, it speaks very much to the fact that when people have a hearing loss, very often their ability to interpret sound, because they've now got a filter on how sound's coming through to the brain, can actually interpret sound incorrectly and then jump to the wrong conclusion. So we would like to encourage people, even though many people who've got different opinions here will have normal hearing, we'd like to encourage people to actually have their hearing tested.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Wow, this is
Thanks
truly fascinating, and if this has grasped your imagination as much as it has ours, and the conversation is, of course, of interest to you, then you do need to contact a professional, just like Natalie said, have your hearing tested. You can contact the South African Association of Audiologists, and of course, check them out at audiologysa.co.za, and also on social media at Hearing SA. Thank you very much. I will settle it by saying it's Yanny.
Laurel.